Reserve Bank chief has Taylor Swift fans can afford tickets to her Eras tour. Australia Central Bank shakes off Taylor Swift inflation fears. 2 days after making history by becoming the first artist to win Album of the Year 4 times at the Grammys, Taylor Swift has notched yet another first thanks to the Reserve Bank of Australia. Australia's most powerful banker has detailed how cash-strapped Taylor Swift fans can still afford pricey tickets to her Eras tour even during a cost-of-living crisis. Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock, who earns more than $1 million a year, on Tuesday left the cash rate on hold at a 12-year high of 4.35%. RBA Governor Michelle Bullock held the inaugural news conference at its first board meeting of the year, a move that came after the latest quarterly data showed inflation continued to cool. It does, however, remain above the RBA's target band of 2 to 3%. Taylor Swift was used to illustrate a question about services inflation asked at the Reserve Bank of Australia's post-rates decision press conference. The RBA just helped Taylor Swift make history again. 2 days after making history by becoming the first artist to win Album of the Year 4 times at the Grammys, Taylor Swift has notched yet another first thanks to the Reserve Bank of Australia. A close-up of a woman smiling and posing for the camera. Taylor Swift was used to illustrate a question about services inflation asked at the Reserve Bank of Australia's post-rates decision press conference. She made history at the Grammys, and now just 2 days later, Taylor Swift has done it again, becoming the first artist to be referenced at the Reserve Bank of Australia post-rates meeting press conference. It came as RBA Governor Michelle Bullock held the inaugural news conference after the central bank left rates on hold 4.35% at its first board meeting of the year, a move that came after the latest quarterly data showed inflation continued to cool. It does, however, remain above the RBA's target band of 2 to 3%. The RBA signaled in its post-meeting statement that it is particularly concerned by services inflation, saying that while goods price inflation came in below its November forecasts, services price inflation declined at a more gradual pace and remains high. It also noted, services price inflation has remained persistent overseas and that the same could occur in Australia. Understanding the hype. What's behind Taylor Swift's astronomical stardom? How do interest rate rises affect services inflation, be it insurance, legal fees, or Taylor Swift tickets? Right, asked Bullock, after saying, Taylor Swift inflation had hit his family last night after his daughters tapped the bank of mum and dad for help purchasing newly announced releases. Yes, I know all about Taylor Swift inflation, Bullock said. Bullock continued by explaining services inflation was tricky to tackle. Monetary policy, like rate movements, can impact demand and thus good inflation, she said, but it didn't directly impact services inflation. But it can indirectly impact because these sorts of costs go into business costs, and to the extent that demand is tempered, it tempers the ability of them to pass on costs, she said. Swift begins the first of 7 Australian dates in Melbourne on February 17, on a tour where top price tickets cost $1,250 Australian dollars, $814, and many fans are expected to travel long distances to attend, including from overseas.